Cam Newton has created content for the entire NFL for about a week now. I've reacted to it. We've heard so many other people react to it, whether big media, whether players or what have you. But this one's interesting because it's Micah Parsons and because they talk about Dak Prescott, his quarterback, and of course Brock Purdy, a quarterback that Micah's talked about in the past and of course has played this year. So this is Micah Parsons' thoughts on Cam Newton calling both Brock Purdy and, of course, Dak Prescott game managers. So take a listen to what Micah has to say, and then we'll kind of react to it on the other side.
I just saw a trending topic going around with Cam Newton's game management comments. A video came out this week saying Cam Newton, saying Brock Purdy, Tua, Jared Goff, and Dak Prescott were game managers, not difference makers. Difference makers are game changers. He has since clarified what he meant, so let's listen to a little bit what he followed up with.
Identifying the difference between a game manager and a game changer. Game manager is not a negative connotation. Cam, what do you mean by game manager? My definition of that managing player is a player who has the ability to make the right play at the right time, protecting the football at all costs. There's times in my career where I figured this out. Sometimes, Cam, you don't have to take over a game. Allow other players to do that. If we're getting personal here, there was times in my career where I did it, and there's times in my career where I didn't do it. When I think about ultimate elite game managers, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, game changer and game manager is not something where I'm saying this person is not physically capable of making some great plays. I'm not saying that. Or I am not saying that they're not good players. There's really only 3 to potentially 5 game changers in the NFL right now. Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, to be honest, Cam has a fair point, right? And I'm not taking it away from any player, any person, not even my quarterback, because honestly, Dak is a difference maker. I think Dak is showing his I think there needs to be a balance, right? There's a point in the game where you have the game under control and you need to learn how to manage a game. But I've seen at this point in time where we needed touchdowns and we didn't get stops, where we needed to be in position to win games and our defense did step up. You can't consistently always be the difference maker, right? At some point in your time, you have to be a game changer. Like, you don't always have to be a game changer. You can personally be a game. There's nothing wrong with having a good team. And I think that's the problem in football and analysts, where we often take so much time into why a person's having success, and we try to default them for that, right? Because when Dak didn't have Brandon Cooks and he didn't have MG was still coming back from his ACL injury, it was Dak didn't have no weapons. He didn't have no one to throw to. Now that he's putting the ball into Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb's hands, MG's getting back in the picture, Jake Ferguson, now he's just a manager. It's like you really can't choose, right? It's like we'll defend a guy if they don't have weapons, if they don't have the offensive line, right? And we've seen that. We've seen that at Burrow. The year he went to the Super Bowl, his offensive line wasn't very good, and he had to be a difference maker. He had to be a game changer, extend plays, right? He had to do a lot, but he had the weapons, right? So we can't always fault, right? No one's ever going to have the perfect O-line, the perfect receiver, the perfect defense. I remember Dak when during his first couple of years when the offense was loaded, right? And they had all the weapons, but they didn't have a defense. Dallas really wasn't known for defense. And no one talked about was Dak a game changer or a difference maker? It was the Cowboys didn't have defense. They were putting up 30-plus points. Dak had over 4,500, 4,600 yards, but people weren't talking about the Cowboys defense then. So I don't think that's a fair judgment, right? I think, and it's painful. It's painful because we try to critique what's fine, right? Just let people play ball. I think people forget at the end of the day, it's about winning, right? It's about winning. When Cam won his MVP, he was winning. He had a good defense. Cam went to the Super Bowl. He had Luke Kuechly. He had Thomas Davis. Let's not forget the defense that Cam had at that time. The year they went to the Super Bowl. They had that, right? So what can we talk about here? I don't think that you can look for a team and say, and to be fair, right? Kansas City wasn't always a defensive team. They're starting to become more of a defensive team now, right? And we can say Patrick Mahomes carried a lot of that weight, right? But Patrick Mahomes had a pretty good offensive line last year. You got Creed Humphrey, you got Tyler, you had Orlando Brown. He was a Pro Bowler, and he did have to make a lot of throws and a lot of risk. But he had Kelsey, but he never really had a receiver once Tyreek Hill left. But outside of him, who else can we really say that, right? Before, I don't want to critique too many people, but it's just not a fair judgment. You're not always going to have everything, right? And it's just not fair. At the end of the day, defense wins championships. You can't fault Dak Prescott for having a good defense, right? That's not realistic. You can't fault Brock Purdy for having a good defense. That's the GM. That's John Lynch. He's the one's putting this team together. He's trading for these people, not Brock Purdy. At the end of the day, as a quarterback, you need to come and be prepared. You need to help your team win. That's at the end of the day, right? Football is a team sport. So it doesn't matter if and we saw this with Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter if you have 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. If your defense does not get a stop, you will not win. You cannot win. It's wrong. But is Cam Newton right? In a sense, is there tiers of quarterbacks? Can we say that? Yes. There are tiers of quarterback. Is anyone on the same level of Patrick Mahomes in the last 4 or 5 years? No. Patrick Mahomes has been a very elite quarterback. Regardless. At the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is. Can I say there's tiers? We can all agree that there's tiers in quarterbacks. But that's not the discussion. I think that if there's a chance for you to go win a game and you go win a game, that's what you do. Dak Prescott, there's a crazy stat. He has, I think, 16 drives where he goes down and win the game. Is anyone throwing the ball but him? No. Dak Prescott's doing that. At the end of the day, you can't be faulted for having a good foundation. You can't be, right? Dak Prescott's not drafting. Your GM, your owners are putting the teams together. You cannot be faulted for having a good, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's a lot of times what we do. We justify people's greatness, people's success for what they have. At the end of the day, who cares, right? It's about who has the best team. It's a team sport. If Dak doesn't play very well and we're playing very well and we pick up the slack for him, then that's how we do it. That's what teamwork is for. You won't be able to tell a weak person if 6 people are carrying a couch. You can only tell a weak person if one person's trying to carry the couch, or maybe 2 because it's starting to tilt, right? Let's be realistic here. And then on the flip side, a lot of people in the media have brought up Cam Newton's career to discredit his opinion. And this is the part where I hate, right? I grew up a Cam Newton fan. I'm all for Cam. I was a Panthers fan. I had the Cam cleats, the Under Armour Cam cleats, because I wanted to be like Cam Newton, right? We're not going to sit here and act like Cam Newton's not an MVP, right? Just because he didn't play as long as Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Kurt Warner, and a bunch of other greats that played this game does not discredit Cam Newton's opinion. and cannot act like we don't know that Cam knows the game of football. He played at an MVP level. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the game at a point in his career. Before the shoulder surgeries and all that other stuff, Cam Newton was that guy. We cannot discredit that. And if you watch the full video, he makes a great point. People oftentimes disguise the truth with criticism, right? They didn't go in to think what Cam meant. They started attacking him, right? Why are you attacking him? If you rebuttal Cam, great. But why are you attacking him? Cam knows more ball than 85% of analysts, right? If you never played the game, if you never coached it or been at a high level, how would you ever know what really goes on, right? People now, right? And this is the problem with the big bully media where we always get into it. They want you to just shut up and let them handle it. So they just want you to, they're trying to bully you out of the media. And they're like, they want to tear a person down. That's why I'm like, everyone has a platform. This is a land of the free. Like, you can speak whatever you want on any service you want, whether people like it or not. You're due to your opinion. It is not wrong for what he said. And he corrected himself. So let Cam say whatever he wants in a category where he was elite. Cam, 32,382 yards, 194 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts and Lamar's breaking his records, but Cam was a guy. And we can't act like that. So let's not get into that, right? But he's not wrong. When you think, because at the end of the day, when you think about certain teams, you do say, hey, they do have this, but it's just over criticism because we don't have nothing else to talk about. You know, I do think Tyreek Hill is an MVP favorite. I think Tyreek Hill can almost hoop. I think Tyreek Hill could go to any team in the NFL and do what he's doing. I don't think you have to be Patrick Mahomes or Tua to throw it to Tyreek at all. You know, so there's parts of it where you can agree, and if people took it personally, you can say I see why, but in reality, he's not wrong. But you shouldn't fault a guy for having a good team because he didn't put it together. So that's kind of like how I feel about it. Agree to disagree.
Obviously, a big portion of what Micah Parsons talks about is his quarterback, Dak Prescott, and he kind of dances around Brock and Tua. I'm not even sure that he really talks about Jared Goff, but kind of my thought process on it is he defends his quarterback while kind of agreeing with Cam on one hand. So, hey, man, I'm looking at it like this. You know, I don't expect Micah Parsons to come to the defense of Brock Purdy or anything like that. But I think, you know, his silence about it kind of speaks to potentially where he feels Brock is in this kind of conversation that maybe Brock is a bit of a game manager. I don't know. I look at it in a sense that, you know, Micah knows that sound bites or quotes about the San Francisco 49ers will get to the locker room, and they have been used against him multiple times in these matchups. I think back to the 2021 matchup where the 49ers played him in the divisional round playoffs, and he said he's from Harrisburg. He's where bullies get bullies when referencing the 49ers being bullies. And then guess what? The 49ers went in to their home and bullied them out of the playoffs. So, and based on the way Michael was talking leading up to the game this year, I think he learned that it's best to either give praise or say nothing if you don't have any praise to give. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, you know, he does kind of agree with Cam in some instances. He obviously is going to defend his quarterback. He didn't talk a whole lot about Brock Purdy. Maybe that's because he believes he's a game manager. I don't know. It's just speculation, right? Just speculating. Because again, he didn't say all that much. So, but what do you think of this whole situation? I don't imagine there's going to be many more of these videos about Cam's thoughts or takes. I would say this is probably going to be the last one. But again, I'm sharing it just because I did find it interesting that it's Micah and he's from the Cowboys and of course Dak Prescott. So kind of wanted to hear that perspective of it. So it's an interesting perspective nonetheless because he is a defender. He's on the defensive side. He's one of the top players in the league. So I think again, it's all about hearing these perspectives, different players, different thoughts. Found it to be interesting. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.